and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Des Ryan. So welcome to our discussion on the topic of succession or sale and navigating the crossroads between business ownership and possibly selling or passing on the business to someone else. So delighted to have none other than Andrew Lamb, the founder of 4Leaf Performance. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Des. Thanks for having me.
So look, changing ownership of a business is a really difficult decision, filled with loads of questions and concerns. Yep. So I'm hoping that our time together will be able to shed a bit of light on some of these challenges and provide some, I suppose, practical advice to people who are at that stage in their business. So I want to kick off with a couple of questions around, I suppose, understanding the decision to sell or to succeed with someone else in the business that's already there. So tell me, what are the key indicators that suggest to a business owner that it might be time actually for the business owner to consider selling their business?
I think good questions, Des. I mean, timing is really in the eyes of the beholder. Looking at multiple factors, right? So let me go back to a fundamental element that we always talk about. There's only two options in business at the end: sell or close. Those are the only two options you've got. And as you said, passing down to somebody, I actually always advise my clients that you should always sell the business. I mean, that's where 80 to 90% of people's wealth is tied up in their business owners. So why would you be giving that to somebody free of charge? That's your nest egg. That's your retirement. So at the end of the day, when we have conversations with people that want to move on, there are only two options: sell or close. And, at what time do you want to do that? So, thankfully, a lot of us are healthier than we've ever been before. Our longevity is there, right? So obviously longevity is one of those questions, right? How long are you going to be in the business? How much energy do you still have for the business? Are you getting tired? I mean, I'm talking to numerous companies right now. We're doing acquisitions, and the business owners are tired. Even in their late 50s, they're tired of the business.
Yeah.
So where are you? Where are you individually in the business? Are you getting tired with it? Can you continue to grow the business? Is the business plateauing? Those are all indicators that you've got to look at. Does somebody else need to take the reins and drive it forward? Are you getting tired and exhausted? What's the market telling you? What is the market? Are you on an uptrend? Are you on a plateau? Are you in a downtrend? Do you have the energy? So at the end of the day, you've got to decide for you whether it's right, whether you want to sell. And I think that also gets into one of the other things that we all know as small business owners, especially in the UK and Ireland, is that, people's identity is their business. In small communities, they're known as the business owner of XYZ, right? Their name or their father's name or their grandfather's name's above the shop, right? So, a lot of people are like, that's my legacy, that's my name, I don't want to let it go. But I go back to, you've got two choices, right? And we can get pretty direct on this. Do you walk out to your business, or did they carry you out feet first? What's your decision?
But I think you kind of honed in on a really important piece for me. Actually, it's the energy and the passion for your business. Do you still have it? And you're right. There's 40-year-old and 50-year-old business owners who just no longer have that passion that they had for it, and it just becomes more of a hindrance than something that they used to absolutely love.
Yeah. Because they started in a business that they loved for a specific reason, and that business hopefully has grown, and now they're having to worry about, HR and finance, and they were a sales guy, right? They were a product guy before, a person lady, right? But they didn't want to be doing all the other things, and they're now having to do all of that, and they've lost their passion for the business. So again, that's a conversation we have with a lot of business owners. Is you don't just pack up one day and it's closed, right? When you're selling it, it's a transition period. So what part of that transition does that allow you as the former business owner to continue in and on for a period of time? So, by the way, selling your business doesn't mean you exit the business. In a lot of instances, we actually want the business owner that had it before to stay on for a while,
True.
right? And enjoy the things that they were really, really good at. So it's and you're just bringing extra people in to help you.
So following on from that then, like, are there any kind of market trends or economic conditions which are really going to influence the decision?
Yes. And I would say these are different because I'm based here in the US, and we do follow the stuff out in Europe as well. But there's different market conditions that change the environment, right? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? In the US right now, it's a buyer's market. There's a tremendous amount of wealth transferring hands because of the baby boomer, right? The largest generation, the largest population with wealth ever created in the United States. And they're all retiring at a massive clip right now. So there's a massive transfer of money going on right now. And that is driving a lot of businesses being available on the market today. There's 2.5 million businesses for sale today in the United States.
Wow.
I think there's over 200,000 available for sale in the UK and Ireland today at any one time. There's a large market. So the other thing we've got to look at as well, right now that we're in this downturn of the economies and things like that, interest rates are pretty high. Going into business and buying a business with the current rates right now is a bit of a risk, right? That's why you've got to make sure you do your due diligence. So it might not be the best time right now, but whenever is the best time. I mean, sometimes we don't know when our number's called, right? So it's got to be around you. It's got to be around what your family needs. It's got to be what your business needs. There's never a perfect time ever. Even with planning and the planning that you and I do with businesses all the time, there's no such thing as a perfect time. But there's a plan to get to where you need to get to. Once you hit that plan, then you can get in and start making unemotional decisions.
So one thing that we've often spoken about on these calls are data and metrics. So are there kind of internal business metrics that owners can monitor to gauge the right timing for a sale or a succession?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to be looking at the operational performance of the business, right? So what are your KPIs? What are the numbers of the business, right? So when you're selling a business, one of the couple of biggest numbers you've got to be looking at. EBITDA, right? What's your profit numbers? So you want to be looking at those numbers. Are they growing, right? So that's how you value a business, basically, is EBITDA plus any add backs that you've got in. So you've got to be looking at those numbers. You've got to be looking at your revenue. Is your revenue continuing to go up, right? When people are evaluating businesses, they're not looking at what you did last year. To be perfectly frank, that's pretty irrelevant. What have you done over 3-4 years? Are you continually growing that business? Nobody wants to buy a job. People want to buy businesses that are profitable and working, right? They want to grow that business on. Nobody wants to buy a distressed business. What we want to buy is distressed owners, right? People that want to get out. We want businesses that are profitable, free cash flow. You've got to be looking at what the cash flow looks like. You've got to be looking at what the inventory rates looks like. A really important one that everybody misses is two. Who are your employees? Who is your team? Are they able to run the business for you, right? Do we have the right bench within the business, right? And then second of all, beyond that, who are your customers? Do you have good customers? Are they getting to retirement age? Are your employees or team members getting to retirement age? Because all of that will go as well. So you want to be looking at, are you constantly refreshing your customer base? Are you constantly developing your team so your team can step up and step into new roles? Those are really the big metrics that we're looking at, is your revenue, your profit, your team, and your customers. What are those numbers? And is that continuing to grow and perform? that's a good business to look at potentially buying.
Absolutely. And it is those it's all kind of stakeholder metrics you've mentioned in there: the customer, the team, as well as the owner. Obviously, have their own metrics in place there. So let's move on with a slightly different kind of a question. But how can a small business owner determine if succession is actually a viable option for their business?
So succession as in a family member taking it over, or somebody within the team?
Potentially.
Okay.
Or maybe not a family member as such, but there's the next managing director, the next CEO in the making, who's chomping at the bit to maybe have a chance to run the business for instead of you.
Right. So I think this is a well-worn path that you and I preach and talk about and coach on all the time. Right? Your business has got to operate without you. You've got to build your business so that it can operate without you. So if that business cannot operate without you, then you are the bottleneck. You are the one. So what you've got to then start looking at is building the systems and processes, the SOPs, the intelligence within the business, so the business can run without you. So you're not the bottleneck. You're not the person that has to be there all the time. Again, nobody wants to buy a job, right? So by doing that and building a system that can scale, we've got to make sure that that is in place, not only for somebody to buy, but for you to step out as well. So, when we talk about creating businesses that work without you, you've also got to do that so that you can actually sell it, right? It's the exact same process. There's no black magic here. You've got to build solid foundations. You've got to make sure you've got the right measurements in place. You've got to make sure you can leverage your systems, and you've got to make sure that you're hiring the right people to move forward. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They're leading their business. They're wanting to step up. And they said, so what makes a great CEO? A great question. So what does make a great CEO? Well, the role of a CEO is very simple. It's their job to create the vision, the mission, and the direction for the team. Make that crystal clear for everybody. They've also to be able to create or get the capital and the investment required to run the business. And the third thing is to hire the right people to run the business. That is their job. As a CEO, that is your only job. Then you hire the right people. The job of the team is to manage the customers. That's their job, not yours, theirs. The job of a customer is to look after the business, pay the bills, buy from the company. And the job of the business is to pay back the CEO their investment. So if we look at that circle, right, CEO, team, customers, business, we have the right people doing the right thing, we've got the systems and processes that are doing that, then that's a great business that's ready for somebody else to step in.
And as you say, you describe that as a cycle. So that if you kind of start that off, the CEO, the team, the business, the business then takes care of the CEO.
Yes, absolutely.
The business
absolutely.
owner.
And again, it's building systems and processes that can work without you. And again, here's one test that everybody can do. Go away for a week. Leave your phone, leave your laptop in your business. Go away for a week. Go enjoy your family. Go enjoy whatever you want to go and do. Find a new hobby. Do something for a week. And come back and see if the business, one, is still there, two, is still operating, and three, is doing better than when you were there. Right? Yep. Everybody can do this for a week. The world will not stop rotating for a week. Right? Go take a break for a week. And if the business is, if it's still there, your team is still there, and it's continuing to grow, okay, now you're on the right path.
Yeah. So with that in mind, and again, something that we talk about quite often is having the right people on the right seats in the right bus. And with that in mind, like, what criteria do you think should be used then to evaluate like any potential successor's capabilities and readiness to take over the business?
Obviously, you've got to understand what motivates them, what drives them, right? So you and I are both, practitioners in the why. Little plug, right? What's your why? right? We're looking for people with specific skills. So if you're looking for a leader to come in and take the business, what are they going to do with that business? How are they going to grow it? What's their plan? How are they, right? So hiring the right people with the right skills to go and grow this business, that's what we should be looking for. So understanding where do you want to go first, right? So what's the plan? Where do we want to go? And then identifying the people within the team that's going to enable the business to get there. And one of the questions that you and I use all the time, when we're talking for team members and we're training people, right? Leaders get into fixing problems. So first of all, stop it, right? The team is there to do the job that needs to be done.
Mm.
So the question as a leader needs to be, how can I help you achieve your goals? Right? So how do we enable team members to make sure that they're driving the right behavior to the right goals, to the right outcomes? How do we enable that? It's not by doing the work for them. It's by challenging them and supporting them in the right ways.
Mm.
And honestly, that question, how can I help you achieve your goals, is one of the most powerful questions you can use with a team member. And then the other tool that I'm using right now is called the 1-3-1 methodology. So anybody can come with a problem, but you've got to come with 3 written solutions to that problem. And then of those 3 solutions, what is the one that you suggest and why? The job of the leader is to build people, is to grow people, right, in their potential. So again, succession planning and where are people going? Start asking those questions. Start making sure you've got a framework. Start making sure you've got training in place. Make sure that we've got goals and objectives and those are clearly articulated. Make sure people understand what those are and they're accountable for delivering on those goals. And then set the standards, not expectations. Set the standards for those deliverables and then start measuring on those deliverables. Those will be, definitely the things that we would look at with regards to people growing internally. And then externally is all about making sure you've got great hiring practices in place, right? I love people go, what's your 30, 60, 90-day plan? If somebody's 90-day plan is literally, 30 days, we're going to walk around and make sure we understand everybody. And then the next 30 days is going to be understanding our customers and our partners. And then the next 90 days, we're going to look at what the processes are and how we're going to get there and make a plan for that now success. Sorry, that person is wandering around, right, burning time and money, right? I want an action plan, right? I want to make sure that we're getting things done day 2, day 3, day 4. They may be small things, but we've got to be moving forward. They've got to be able to multitask. And again, depends on the role that you're putting people in.
Yeah, no, great answers. And I think you touched on there that vision and mission and culture, and it's really, really important that gets taken into account, and that. And I'm not always saying that can't be improved. By the way, with someone new coming into the business, because maybe they have identified some gaps that are already there. And can fill those. So I think that's something else. So I just want to move on to, I suppose, preparing for the succession or sale. Okay, and what critical steps do you think a business owner needs to take to prepare their business for a successful sale?
Number 1, have a plan. Number 1, have a plan. Right? When are you going to execute and what are the numbers that you've got to achieve to execute? Number 2, make sure your business is ready for sale. Right? Nobody wants to buy, think of this, everybody's bought a home out there. Nobody wants to buy a disheveled house. Nobody wants, drive up to look at a house and the garden's a mess and the front door's hanging off and there's paint peeling off the walls inside. Take that analogy and put it to a business. The business has got to look presentable. It's got to have good numbers. It's got to have solid foundations. It's got to have good customers. It's got to look inviting, right? So we've got to get the business ready for sale. So plan, get the business ready for sale. And then number 3 is your financials. The number 1 thing that we look at, first thing we look at in financial due diligence is the numbers, right? Get your numbers prepared. Talk to your CPA. Get your numbers in the right state. In the US, we get lots and lots of tax breaks on our numbers, all above board, right? There's lots of things that we can take out to reduce our tax burden, right? And I know you can do that in the UK and in Ireland as well. However, when you're getting ready for sale, you want to be showing higher profit. Profit multiplied by a number gives you your sales price. So strategically, you should be thinking about when you're moving from an operating business to selling your business, you want to be showing more profit, not taking all the deductions and all of those things. And then number 4 is get yourself ready. One of the biggest challenges we see with business owners is they have nothing after the business. Their identity is wrapped up in the business. They don't have hobbies. They don't know what they're going to do after the business. So find some hobbies, get something that excites you, join some clubs, do other things, right? Go figure out, go introduce yourself back to your family, right? Business owners running 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? You've got to reintroduce yourself back. So what's the plan for you? What's your plan for your family, right? Make sure you've got things ready to go, not just for the first 3 months or 6 months, but what are you going to do for the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I had a conversation there a couple of months ago, actually, with a business broker here in Ireland. And that 4th point that you said was actually his main point. He says that is the number one reason why businesses do not sell, is because the business owner isn't in a position, he's not in the right headspace. He or she isn't in the right headspace to actually sell the business and move on to life after business. And he said it was huge.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we do with businesses that are exiting, right? So we always have the plan for the business, we have the plan for the financials, but we also speak a lot to the mindset. What are you going to do? What's the plan, right? And here's what I get. We're going to jump on a cruise and we're going to do a 3-month cruise. And I'm like, fantastic. What are you going to do after that? Well, I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Now you're lost again, right? So again, the options maybe stay in the business with the new business owner for 12 months.
Yeah.
Transition. It doesn't have to be a cutoff, right? By the way, new business owners, the majority of them want you to stay on, because you've literally got to take all the knowledge that's in your head and bring that down to the business anyway.
Yeah.
That takes time. So, but having a plan for yourselves, absolutely, yeah. I say number 4, but I would agree with you. It's probably number 1, Des.
Yeah. I think the whole mindset piece, as you say, retirement or selling a business isn't a 3 or 6 month project. It's kind of like a life-changing, permanent change in you as well. So, So I just want
to on that point, when I talk to a lot of startups, right, they start having this conversation with me, right? Even with my business, right? We have a plan, right? We have a plan to exit. But when I sit down with new business owners, like, we're going to build this business, I'm great. So when are you going to sell it? And they're like, what? I'm just starting it. No, you need a plan when you're going to exit this business, right? Stephen Covey talks about start with the end in mind. The end in mind, 2 options, sell or close. Those are the 2 options you've got. So when are you going to do it? And hopefully not close, right?
Absolutely. So one last question kind of on this subject, and it's around the legal and the financial. I was going to ask you something around due diligence, but I think you covered it off in relation to the financial statements and business plans and talking to your CPAs and getting some legal contracts in place. But just in relation to what type of legal and financial considerations need to be addressed when preparing for either a succession or a sale?
There's lots. I mean, is it a stock purchase? Is it an asset purchase? Who's involved in the organization? What's the equipment? I mean, these are all things that we've got it from a legal perspective, right? I mean, the whole job of legal is to make sure what you're buying is the thing you're buying, and there's no surprises down the road, right? Litigation is a big thing, right? Especially if somebody's they're selling, right? All of a sudden they're people want to make sure that they're covered, right? Or they're not going somewhere else. So legal is a very, very important step that shouldn't be underestimated. And people should spend good money on doing it, because here's the thing: if you scrimp on legal, the ramifications that later may be substantial. So make sure you've got great attorneys working for you, and they're covering and looking after you. So we go into a lot of detail. We spend a lot of time doing the due diligence. It's literally looking under any rock that we need to look under to make sure there's no hidden skeletons in the closet, right? From the financial due diligence, same thing. We want to make sure the numbers are truly representative of what the business is. Because if you want to get a loan, and we haven't touched this, right? But go get a loan from a bank, right? They are going to want to know every single number of that business. They're going to, it's literally going to be a proctology exam, right? They're going to look at every single line item on your books. They're going to look at what your plan is. What is your business plan for the future? How are you going to get there? I know in the UK and Ireland, it's a little harder to get a business loan. In the US, thankfully, we got the SBA. Banks loan the money, but the SBA backs those loans. So you can actually get a loan up to 80% of the value of the business. There's other programs out there. For example, if you're buying a similar business with the same tax code, you can get up to 100%, right? So those are, it's very business friendly in the US, and that's in general, but some other states are more business friendly than others. I'm sure you've heard that in the news. But understanding your numbers, really digging deep into what those numbers are, is critically important. And not just the numbers where they are today. So one of the things that we do is, what's the cash flow analysis? How much money do you need to run that business for the next 6 months as you do transition? Right? So making sure that you've got capital available to run the business going forward, right? Because again, the other owner may have had a line of credit that stops, right? Or it may not stop. The bank may be okay to move that forward. We've got 2 clients right now where the banks love the businesses so much, they're just transferring the line of credit to the new owner, right? Because they want to keep the business going. They want it in the community. So that's the financial and legal due diligence. The operational is the one that everybody misses. This is the one about understanding how the business operates. Are there SOPs? Are there KPIs? Who is the team, right? What is the culture you're buying into? I've been involved with many, many major acquisitions over the years, and integrating culture into businesses is one of the biggest hurdles and one of the biggest time crunches that businesses face. So if you're going to buy a business, who are you buying? What is their culture? What is your culture? Does it align to who you are? Right? We get lots of surprises when we get involved with customers that have bought businesses like, I didn't know they were this way, right? So you've got to understand the culture. And by the way, they've got to understand you. Where are you going to be coming from? What are you going to drive? What are your new standards, right? How are they going to grow? One of the things that people hear, so think of it from an employee point of view. We sell the business to somebody else. What's the first thing that goes into the mind of the team member? I've lost my job. Right? Why?
My job's going to change.
Yeah, my job's going to change, or I lost my job. Here in the States, it's usually I've lost my job, because every time you hear a merger or an acquisition, you also hear we're downsizing. They're cutting 20% of the workforce. They're doing this. They're doing that. So we spend a lot of time working on communication, how to communicate to the team. And by the way, it takes 14 different touch points, not telling them 14 times all in a row, but 14 touch points for them to get comfortable, to understand where this business is going and how is it going to get there. So that takes 14 attempts to actually get that in. So literally, when we're looking at operational due diligence, We got to look at the operation, how it operates, the SOPs, how do we get stuff out to the previous owner's head. I mean, we're not the aliens from Mars. We can't suck the brains out yet, right? But we've got to get all of that documented. We've got to get all that down because that owner will transition. So these are all things that you've got to get ready for. Again, it goes back to, is your house ready for sale?
Mm.
And are the windows painted? Are the doors painted? Is there oil on the locks? Right? All the minute things that you've got to get done has got to get done for somebody to buy it.
So you've mentioned the transition process in your previous kind of answer there, which is really, really important, obviously. So just give me the potential challenges and pitfalls that small business owners might face during any transition period, and how do you feel they might be mitigated?
Okay. Number one issue with any merger or acquisition is somebody standing up immediately and responding to a comment from the team or the crowd. So, for example, let's say that the company's being challenged with salaries or wages, right? You're coming up to the end of the year. And somebody stands up and goes, are you going to pay our salary increases this year? Are you going to keep our salaries this year? Oh, we got our salaries cut by 10% last year because it was hard times. We were promised we were going to get them back. Are we going to get those back? Responding and acting to that question in the wrong way can significantly impact your business. So, for example, right, if you turn around and said, yes, we'll do that, right? But you don't know all the details behind that, that's thousands of dollars that you've just committed to. So having a plan to respond to questions, so talking to the previous business owner, having a conversation with regards to, what's been going on, what are the things I should expect, and having a cohesive plan to have that conversation, right, and address that is absolutely critical. So one of the things I suggest is when we're communicating like that is, you know what, that's a fantastic question. I don't have the answer for that just yet. However, I will commit to coming back to you within 2 weeks when I understand this topic completely.
Yeah.
So first of all, you've not dismissed it, you've recognized it, and you're giving it time to commit to go back to answer what that question is. So that's one of the pitfalls that we see with business owners is they get in and they start promising stuff without understanding the business.
Mm.
Seek to understand first.
Yeah. But it's funny, we talk about that from the very, very early stage of communication, listen to understand, not to respond. Yeah. So I think that would be key certainly there. And
then the other point is to understand your people, right? So one of the things is when you're taking on a company, let's say the company's been in existence for 15 years, right? We were talking to one the other week. 15 years of employment, right? Everybody knows everybody in there. But it takes a while for you to understand your new team. We have a shortcut of doing that using Y and DISC to truly understand how to motivate people and how to communicate to people so that it doesn't take you a year to figure out who you've got on your team. We can literally do that in 30 minutes, right? You do that as well, Des, right? I mean, you have workshops that you use all the time to understand who your people are. We give that insight into the new owners, right? So one of the things that we do is by looking at the organization, where does it need to grow? How do we need to get there? Do we have the right people in the right seats on the right bus? And if we don't, this is a great opportunity to kind of shift some things around. Mm. Get yourself ready. And as a business owner buying a business, what is your plan? Again, I go back to plan. Plan for the existing business owner, plan for the new business owner. You must have an annual plan. What is your 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, 1-year, 90-day plan? What are you doing?
You mentioned your plans there, which are really important. And you've also mentioned the potential resistance to change from some of the employees or the stakeholders. So do you feel that you should have some contingency plans in place just to handle any unexpected issues during this transition period?
Yes. And again, I think that's, having some very transparent and open conversations with the previous owner. who's on board, right? So we literally do an analysis of all of the team members on the team. Where are they on the 9-point grid? Are they solid performers? Are they high achievers? Or are they people that they've just haven't had the inclination or the energy to move on, right? And we find that all the time. Here's an opportunity to move people on if they're not a fit, right? So yes, you've got to sit down. You've got to have contingency plans, right? Again, this is all pre-planning, right? Now, again, sometimes it's a challenge because they won't tell you everything at the very beginning. But again, this gives you, when you're buying a business, you've got that grace period, right? So you can make those hard decisions. Again, you may be bringing in your own team, right? How are you going to integrate that team? How are you going to roll that up? Again, you and I have been through those situations in the past where new teams come in, new ideas, new direction. Okay, how are you going to bring the team on board? An interesting statistic: removing somebody from a company and rehiring is about the same equivalent as an annual salary. So if you're paying somebody $40,000, $50,000 a year, the cost of rehiring somebody is $40,000 to $50,000, right? So be careful with shotgunning. Be very strategic. Be very intentional. Have a plan. And if you're going to bring in specific people, why are you bringing those people in? Because you're going to have to communicate that. And then how are you going to integrate those together so that your business continues to grow? You don't have this slump and then you're fighting, right? What is it? Storming, what is it? Storming, norming, performing. I think I'm missing one in there somewhere, right? But we all go through that. But it's how do you get out of that storming to norming, to get into that norming and performing? How do you quickly get out of that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting subject, because I only had a conversation with a guy last week who is in that position where he is succeeding and is moving up into a senior kind of managing director of the business. The owner is moving aside in a phased way, which is exactly what he wants, because he needs the experience and knowledge of this guy to support him. But actually, one of the key successes will be the whole mindset change, or the mindset shift in the senior team who are moving up as well into the business to take on directorships. Again, what type of mindset change needs to land there to make sure that they're elevating their performance and they're elevating their expectations for the business? So it's not just about that one person. It's the mindset of a lot of people within the business to make sure that it succeeds.
But I go back to, what is the role of the CEO, right? It's the team. They've got to be setting the vision and moving people. I mean, one of the things I talk to my clients all the time about is, you know what? When the business grows, some people will grow with the business, but some won't. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So you should always be looking and challenging the team to be growing. Set them, not to be comfortable in their current role. How do you get them working on the next role? One of the things is, I always hire people, right? If I'm hiring a manager, I'm not hiring a manager. I'm hiring a director. I'm hiring somebody with the potential to move at least 1-2 levels up. Don't hire for the current role. Hire for the next roles up. Then you always have that growth opportunity, that mindset of that individual as you're hiring. And that's one of the biggest challenges I see with hiring with people, is they hire for the current role. Stop it. Hire for the next level so they can grow, they can aspire, right?
That really is succession planning, I suppose, from the get-go. And just to make sure that you are getting in and finding the next leader of the business 5 years before you need them.
Yeah. And challenge, because, by the way, when they're challenging and growing and developing, they're going to be moving the business upwards anyway. Right? Set those goals, set those standards, get the team to be performing, get them to perform at that level before you put them in that level. Right? And in my corporate world, I mean, that was the conversations I always have with my leaders, right? You've got to be performing at this level for a period of time before we promoted you, because they want to know that it's going to occur.
Yeah.
Right? Versus, I hope he does it, or I hope she does it. Right? Hope is not a plan. Right?
Hope is not a strategy, as they say.
It is not at all.
So, Andrew, great chat. Loved having our conversation again. And I'd like to thank you for joining us in this discussion on succession or sale, and I suppose navigating that crossroads of business ownership. So we've covered a huge amount of ground today, from, I suppose, recognizing the key indicators that might suggest it's time to sell, or to succeed to somebody else, to prepare your business meticulously for a successful transition, and finally to navigating the actual process of handing over the reins to someone within the business or a brand new owner. We really hope this interview has provided you with the knowledge and confidence to make informed decisions about the future of your business. If you have any further questions that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to Andrew and the team at 4Leaf Performance. Visit the website www.4leafperformance.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we wish you the very best of success in your business.
Thank you, Des. Appreciate you.